Hello everyone, and welcome to this sort of state of the channel / state of the podcast video. As you can see, I'm in my my recording room / my daughter's playroom. We got a nice clashing environment going on. Before we jump into everything that I want to talk about today, I want to firstly just wish everyone a happy new year. Definitely hoping 2022 is the year everything is good. I also want to quickly just let you know why I want to make a video like this. In this video, we're going to kind of talk about a lot of the things that I would like to get done within this year of 2022, as well as just kind of thank you for 2021. I know that for a lot of people, including myself, 2021 has been just a continuation of just a lot of stress going on in our world, but simultaneously, I couldn't be more grateful for 2021. This was the year that we started the Overleveled podcast and this YouTube channel as it currently sits. I feel like it's important for me as kind of the guy who's running a lot of the YouTube stuff and the podcast stuff. I feel like it's important for me to be open and transparent with the people who are fans, the people who are listeners, just kind of the things that I want to do for the channel and for the podcast and all that good stuff. Another thing that I want to address as well before we continue for my sort of goals for the upcoming year is I want to quickly just put out an apology real fast just for the inconsistent uploading of our podcasts. I know whenever we initially started the channel, you've probably seen it on YouTube, you've seen it on Twitter. Me and DJ, we made a video where we're going to try to do videos or podcasts every single week.
How often do you want to record episodes? Is this going to be like a once a month thing or
every day?
Dude, no, I got way too much shit going on right now.
Once a week.
That's more doable.
Perfect. And at the time, that absolutely seemed attainable. And even though you could still see it as an attainable thing, currently there's just been so much going on in our lives. We can't get to a solid weekly upload schedule for the podcasts. If you're a member of the Discord as well, you might have seen my post. I kind of explained a little bit what's going on in my life, some things happening over Christmas and the New Year's break. My daughter's sick. I'm sick as well. That's another reason why I haven't gotten a podcast out. For the past couple of days, my voice has sounded like an absolute garbage disposal. Another thing too, during all of these prolonged gaps in between episodes, if you've listened to one of our more recent episodes, you heard me mention this to DJ. One of the things that I really would like for this channel, I want it to be good quality stuff. I want it to be good quality content. I know I'm using just a webcam right now, so that's not entirely what I mean by that, but I would rather take time in between podcast episodes so that we can make sure that each episode is as good as it can possibly be from a quality standpoint. Of course, we could just do weekly stuff where we just talk about nonsense and just talk about, I guess anything that comes to our minds, but realistically, I don't want to just be a channel or a podcast that just uploads and uploads and uploads and doesn't really have any good substance for the listener or the viewer. I want it to be more quality over quantity. So that's another reason why, sometimes these episodes take a little bit longer. I don't want to just put out something for the sake of putting something out. So with that sort of stuff out of the way, I'd like to move forward into what I would like to do with the channel and with the podcast and YouTube and Twitch and all that stuff going forward in the year 2022. As far as the podcast is concerned, I don't necessarily have a whole lot of ideas as far as how we're going to start changing things up as far as our format goes. There could definitely be some tweaks in the structure of how we organize all of the things that we talk about per podcast, but for the most part, I think I'm okay with how things are going right now. But if anybody has any sort of suggestions for the podcast, segments, or how we should structure certain things, how you want to see us do reviews, things like that, be sure to let me know. One thing that I do have pseudo set up right now for the podcast are guests. I want to hopefully bring some guests onto the podcast, whether it's with me and DJ or just me and the guest having a conversation. One of the guests that I do have lined up is TylerTylerims. If you listen to the podcast or you're in any other sort of Discord communities out there, maybe you've heard of this guy, or you follow him on Twitch, or you see him on Twitter. He's kind of like me, where he will go on Twitch and he kind of plays a big variety of video games. And one of the games that he's playing right now is Final Fantasy 15. One of the things that we want to do together on the podcast is do a book club for this book right here. This is the Final Fantasy 15 Dawn of the Future book. There are 4 parts to this book, and I think Tyler and I want to do possibly a 4-part series discussing each part of this book. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about all of the things that we love, all the things that we hate, all of the things, just all of our thoughts and feelings in general over this book. I know it's not necessarily a video game per se that we are discussing, but this is technically canon to the lore and the story of Final Fantasy 15, so I think it's absolutely worth taking a look. Not many people have really gone in depth discussing everything going on in this book, so I feel like it would be really cool for Tyler and I to have a discussion about the book. If you follow me on Twitch as well, you saw that I recently just played through all of Senua's Sacrifice for the first time. It was a blind playthrough. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience with the game. One of the big reasons why I decided to play that game, though, other than the sequel is coming out and I want to play the sequel, is because my buddy Chris and I have been discussing a potential podcast episode or series going through the video game. Chris is a fan of the game. He's played it before, and he knows a lot about the game and just kind of the development, a lot of the themes going on in the game as well. So we feel like it would be a really interesting discussion talking about that game, talking a little bit about Norse mythology as well, and how a lot of that ties in and creates one cohesive game. We want to talk about themes, with the whole mental health issues going on in the game. We feel like it would just be a really interesting discussion, and that's one other guest. We haven't necessarily got the timing set up for when we're going to do the Final Fantasy 15 book podcast or the Senua's Sacrifice discussion podcast, but we do want to get those done really soon. Another note as far as guest appearances go on the podcast, I also just feel like maybe I should make it known as well that if you want me to be a guest on your podcast, or if you want to come onto the show and you want to have a discussion with us, I'm totally open to doing collaborative work like that. We're still very small right now, so anything that we can do to just kind of start a discussion and kind of get people talking about video games or books or really whatever, I'm totally open to doing all that sort of stuff. I was recently a guest on the Loud Thumbs podcast in their movie section where we talked about the movie Dune. I will link a link to that link in the description below. So if you're interested in hearing that discussion that we had, feel free to click that link and let us know how you like that one. Also, as of the recording of this video, this podcast is not out yet, but I was recently privileged to sit down with my buddy Shawn, and we were able to talk about the Cosmere, Brandon Sanderson's books, this whole universe that he made. Shawn runs a podcast called Speak the Words, where him and his buddy Mango, they sit down together, and Shawn basically explains all of the Cosmere books to Mango, who has not read any of the Cosmere books. So what me and Shawn did, we basically sat down together and we just had a big discussion talking about all these books, because I am just about completely caught up with everything happening in the Cosmere. So that's not uploaded just yet as of recording this, but I will link his podcast down in the description as well. So kind of moving away from the podcast discussion, I kind of want to talk a little bit about YouTube and maybe a little bit of Twitch as well. If you've been following the Overleveled Games YouTube channel, you've kind of seen that there have been a few different kinds of videos that I've tried making over the last year. Obviously, I've been doing just video versions of our podcast. Whenever we record, I'll edit all of that in Premiere Pro, and I'll try to do some visual flair here and there. We started doing face cam as well, so those videos have been consistently going up along with the podcast. But aside from just the podcast videos, I did a reaction video to the very first episode of The World Ends With You anime. And I also did a video where I talked about Fantasian, by Mistwalker Studios, and basically just talked about how I wish I could play that game and I don't have any Apple products. And if you follow the podcast as well, you know that, every now and then we'll try to do a full review discussion episode, talking about a video game like Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, and more to come probably. But what I would really like to do is start uploading more edited, more scripted, just a lot more higher production quality reviews on the channel. They would definitely be disconnected from the podcast, but it's another way that I would like for this YouTube channel to grow independently from the podcast. I would like to do a lot of different things with the YouTube channel, starting with reviews. At the back end of 2021, I started playing a game called 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. I think that's how you pronounce Aegis. I'm not done with the game just yet. I'm still playing it, but I have been thoroughly enjoying my time experiencing this story unfold and playing the game itself. So as it sits right now, this might be my first full review that I will have lined up as far as a full, highly produced video review of a video game on the channel. Game reviews has just been something that I've been wanting to do for years and years. I've tried my hand at writing scripts in the past and dabbling here and there with, trying to set up a good format for writing reviews on YouTube. But I don't know, I guess I just haven't tried hard enough, Like in my mind, I feel like I'm putting in a lot of effort and just preparing, making a video, but I'll start going and I'll start writing a script or something, and I'll get really into the process of preparing a video review, and then it all just kind of stops abruptly, and then I just never pick it up again. So this is just another reason why maybe it's a smart idea for me to make this video, so I can say things like this. I want to make a review, and then y'all can keep me accountable and say, hey bro, where's the review? So like I said, I think 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim might be my first review going forward. One of the other YouTube channels that I have on here as well is GavDodVod. This is basically where I've just been taking my VODs on Twitch, my videos on demand, and I'll download them and I'll upload them to GavDodVod. So I know not everybody can hop on Twitch and catch me whenever I'm doing a stream of any kind. So basically, this is just something that I've done to keep that catalog open for everyone who wants to see my live streams. There's not a whole lot on it just yet. I have yet to upload all of my Senua's Sacrifice playthrough. I actually even forgot to download one of my Twitch streams at one point, so it's missing an entire episode, I guess, if you want to call it that, of my playthrough of that game, but I will get the rest uploaded eventually. Just thought that I would point that out to everyone, that channel exists. So I will link that down in the description as well. So to kind of talk about Twitch a little bit more as well, I know a lot of y'all have seen me on Twitch, and y'all have come in and y'all have talked to me on Twitch. It's been a really great time. I want to first and foremost just let y'all know that being a Twitch affiliate is not my priority. When it comes to Twitch, my main thing is I just want to play games, and if anybody wants to hop in and have a chat with me, I love doing that as well. I love being able to just sit down with one of my buddies. That's one of my greatest memories growing up, is just going to a friend's house and just watching them play a game and just talk to them, vice versa. People would come over, we would just talk, play video games. I love that sort of community. I love that environment. So when it comes to my Twitch streaming, I think a lot of what I will do, of course, I will be playing games that I have never played before, but I also want to be able to play some video games that I really love as well. So far, everything that I've been playing on Twitch has essentially been a blind playthrough, but other games, such as Final Fantasy IX, for instance, I have the Mogiri mod set up, and I haven't got to check that out in too much detail. But I have played Final Fantasy IX multiple times. It's one of my favorite games. I would love to just hop on Twitch, play that game, and just have a good conversation with anybody who wants to hop in as well. Another thing I really want to discuss as well is just the fact that there are a lot of video games that I would love to play this upcoming year. These are video games that may or may not end up being streamed. I may end up playing a lot of these games on my own, but if there is like a demand or something, if people want to see my full reactions to a lot of these games, because a lot of these are series that I know a lot of people want to see people's reactions for them. But as it sits right now, I haven't decided which of all these games I'm going to stream or I'm going to play all by myself. These are just the games that I want to be able to get through this year so that I can eventually talk about them on our podcast and maybe also do full-blown reviews like I want to do with 13 Sentinels. Obviously, 13 Sentinels is another game that I have started last year, but I want to finish that this year, and I have not been streaming that. I've just been playing that one on my own time. One of the big dogs as far as game series goes that I really want to play since I started this channel, and I've been communicating with people in the RPG and the JRPG community, everyone has been saying that I need to play these games, and I agree. I think that this is an important series for me to get through, especially with everything new that's coming out in the series. But the Legend of Heroes Trails series, Trails in the Sky, Trails of Cold Steel, all that good stuff. I know that there's a good order in which to play them, pretty much release order. So I'm going to start with Trails in the Sky, and I'm going to move on to SC, the second chapter. And I'm going to play through all these games, and I really want to experience this story. This is a game series that everyone has been saying that the story is really good, really emotional, really fun to play as well. Just a all-around good turn-based RPG series. Another series of games which I've already played 1 and 2 and Origins is the Ys series, the YS series. I played through Ys 1 and 2 in, a weekend. Pretty short, simple games, but I really enjoyed my time with them. And then I went and I played Ys Origins as well. That took me a little longer. Took me a couple of playthroughs to do that one, but I really, really enjoyed that game. And I know all of these games are kind of follow the story arc and progression of our main character, Adol, and I'm very curious to see where his story ends up. I know Ys 9 recently came out, and Ys 8 has great reviews as well, so I'm really looking forward to playing these games. The Ys series is one that I've been wanting to get into for a while as well. Next up, I really want to go through the Persona games as well. I've pretty much started every Persona game, and I have not played any more than 5 hours of any of them. And these games are definitely time sinks. You're not really going to get the gist of what the game is by just playing 5 hours or less of any of these games. I don't know if I'm going to play through every single Persona game, but I definitely want to play through Persona 5 Royal. I want to play Persona 5 Strikers as well after I do Royal. I want to play through Persona 4 and 3 as well. These are games that everyone talks about right now, and I think that they are important to play if you run an RPG podcast. And not just the Persona games, I want to play through the Shin Megami Tensei games as well. Obviously, not every single one of them. There are so many Shin Megami Tensei games, spin-offs and stuff like that, but Shin Megami Tensei 5 recently came out. If you follow me on Twitch as well, you've seen that I've been playing a little bit of Shin Megami Tensei 4 via the 3DS emulator. I've really enjoyed that game, so I'm excited to see where that one continues. And the Shin Megami Tensei series, Persona games, all of that stuff, these are games that I've just been putting off for far too long, and I gotta play them. Another thing that I want to do as well is I want to play through all of the Dragon Quest games in the order that they were released. I've already played Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3. I have the mobile version, which I hear is technically the best version of Dragon Quest 4, so I'm kind of playing through that right now. But this year, I definitely want to get through the Dragon Quest series. I'm excited to get to Dragon Quest 11. I hear it's a really great experience as your first Dragon Quest game, and it's also a fantastic experience if you've played everything, especially the first 3 games leading up to Dragon Quest XI. I'm excited for the 3 remake or demake or what is it, HD 2D remake that's coming out. As a big Final Fantasy fan, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm almost not necessarily burnt out, but there has to be something else out there that's long running and kind of an anthology type video game series that's really solid. And yeah, Dragon Quest really is that. Dragon Quest: The Legend of Dai, I believe, is an anime that I think either just came out or it's been out forever. I can't remember. But it's kind of getting a lot more popular here in the West. So I'm excited to hop back into 4 and play through the rest of the series. But speaking of Final Fantasy as well, one of the few Final Fantasy games that I have not played or beaten is Final Fantasy Tactics. So I'm really excited to play this one. This one I'm actually going to be playing along with the Resonant Arc. They have a podcast called the State of the Arc podcast. Recently, they've been doing a series where they will take one specific game, and they've been playing through it almost like a book club type series, but going through a video game. They're doing Mass Effect right now, and they just announced the other day that they're doing Final Fantasy Tactics. And so I think that this is going to be a prime opportunity to jump into Tactics, especially with all of the rumors and everything happening regarding the Final Fantasy Tactics remake or remaster, re-release, whatever that's going to be. Lastly, just kind of a miscellaneous thing that I've been sort of thinking about doing. If you listen to the podcast and just kind of earlier, obviously, I mean, I love stories. I love reading books, whether it's RPGs or not. I am someone who really plays a video game to escape into the world that game takes place in. I love good character-driven stories. I love books, really, and I thankfully I work a job outside of the YouTube stuff where I can have headphones in and I listen to audiobooks pretty much all day long. I used to listen to a lot of podcasts and I still do, but right now I'm finishing up all of the Brandon Sanderson books, reading through the Cosmere and stuff. I've also been reading a lot of books by Frederick Bachman, and that's been really interesting. I listened to A Man Called Uva the other day, and I'm wrapping up My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. This has also been a great read. Essentially, what I'm thinking of right now is I don't know if it's going to be necessarily a part of this channel and this podcast feed, but I do want to maybe start up something regarding books. I know me and Chris have even dabbled in talking maybe a little bit about the Lord of the Rings series, for instance, other books that I'm telling him to read, and I know he's read a lot of books as well, so maybe this is something that I could end up doing in the future. I'm not sure, but this is something that I've been putting a lot of thought into. Just nothing is concrete yet, so maybe 2022 could be the year that something happens. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it as far as goals that I have for things that I want to do with the channel, things that I want to do with the podcast. I guess the only other thing right now that I would like to happen currently, as of recording this, I am at 80 subscribers. The Overleveled Games channel is at 80 subscribers. I hope that with reviews and all that stuff, we can continue to boost that number up. But I would love more people to find the podcast. I would love more people to enjoy the content that I'm working real hard to put out. Obviously, if by the end of the year I only gained 20 more subscribers and got to 100 subscribers, that would be something. I guess a more attainable goal would be something like 500 subscribers. Not that 100 subscribers isn't attainable, just something that is more significant than an extra 20 subscribers. Let's try to get like 420 subscribers. I didn't even plan that. But yeah, guys, all said and done, I think I'm pretty much open to doing anything new. I hope this channel can grow. I hope the podcast can grow as well. Any new ideas that you, the viewer or listener, might have, please throw them my way. I am absolutely good with all forms of criticism and just opinions, things that you might want to see change, new things that you want to see added onto the channel or onto the podcast. But yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Again, everyone, I hope you all have a fantastic 2022 and onwards. Thank you. Bye-bye.